In 71 BC, travelers walking along a Roman road noticed something that stopped them in their tracks. It wasn't an army. It wasn't a battle. It was silence. And a message left behind. Bodies stretched along the roadside. Not hidden. Not rushed. Placed where everyone could see them. Rome had crushed a rebellion. But it wasn't finished. Because winning wasn't enough. Everyone else had to understand what that victory meant. Stay with this story until the end, because Rome didn't just punish enemies. It taught lessons. Empires are not held together by kindness alone. Rome ruled millions of people, different languages, different cultures, different loyalties. Soldiers could conquer land, but fear was what kept it. The Romans understood something early. If people only hear about punishment, they forget. If they see it, they remember. So Roman justice was never quiet. It was visible, deliberate, and carefully staged. Punishment was not only about stopping crime. It was about shaping behavior, about reminding everyone who was in control. Laws were written on stone. But fear was written on bodies. Some punishments were quick, others were slow. Some were symbolic, others were meant to stay in the mind long after the moment had passed. Over time, Rome developed many methods, each one chosen for a reason, each one sending a specific message. 4 of them stand out, not because they were the most brutal, but because they were the most effective. The first was the one everyone feared most: crucifixion. Rome did not invent crucifixion. Other civilizations had used it before, but Rome perfected it. They turned it into a language everyone understood. Crucifixion was rarely used on Roman citizens. It was reserved for slaves, rebels, pirates, those considered outsiders, people whose suffering could be displayed without shame. The goal was never speed. The goal was exposure. Those condemned were placed along busy roads, near city gates, in places where daily life passed by. Merchants, soldiers, families, everyone had to see. The body was lifted up, not to honor it, but to make it visible, to remove dignity, to show submission. This was not justice done in private. This was Rome speaking out loud. After the slave revolt led by Spartacus, Rome sent one of its clearest messages. Thousands of captured rebels were executed along the Appian Way, a major road leading toward the heart of the empire. Mile after mile, crosses lined the path. Anyone traveling that road would understand immediately. Rebellion had a price, and Rome would collect it publicly. The crosses did more than punish the defeated. They warned the living. Crucifixion combined pain, time, and visibility. But more importantly, it combined fear with memory. Long after the bodies were gone, the image remained. Rome didn't need to repeat itself often. One lesson, clearly delivered, could last generations. But crucifixion was not the only warning Rome used. Some messages were delivered from above. Inside the city of Rome stood a steep cliff known as the Tarpeian Rock. It wasn't impressive in size, but it was heavy with meaning. This was a place associated with betrayal. Traitors to the state were brought here. Not hidden away, not quietly removed. They were displayed. Sometimes executed, sometimes thrown. The height itself was part of the punishment. To be cast down from a place so close to Rome's political and religious center was symbolic. It meant rejection, expulsion, erasure. For ordinary Romans, the lesson was clear. Loyalty mattered. Betrayal would not be forgiven. The Tarpeian Rock wasn't about spectacle in the way arenas were. It was about reminder. Every time someone passed that place, they remembered what it stood for. Rome rewarded obedience, but it never forgot disloyalty. And sometimes punishment wasn't just seen, it was cheered. In Roman arenas, justice and entertainment merged. This was known as damnatio ad bestias, condemnation to beasts. Criminals were brought into the amphitheater, not as fighters, but as participants in a performance. The events were carefully planned. Sometimes the condemned were armed, sometimes they were not. The outcome was never in doubt. Wild animals from across the empire were used: lions, leopards, bears. Animals that symbolized distance and dominance. Bringing them to Rome showed power. Making them part of punishment showed control. The crowd watched, not silently, not with hesitation. These events reinforced a simple idea. Rome controlled land. Rome controlled people. Rome even controlled nature. Over time, these spectacles became more elaborate. They told stories. They recreated myths. Punishment was no longer just enforcement. It was theater. But beneath the performance, the message remained unchanged. Life and death were not equal. They were managed, and Rome was the manager. Not all crimes were punished the same way. Some offenses were considered more than illegal. They were unnatural. For these, Rome created rare, symbolic punishments. One of the strangest was pena cruelty, the punishment of the sack. It was used for crimes like killing one's own parents, acts that threatened the moral foundation of society. The condemned was placed inside a sack, sometimes with animals. Then the sack was sealed. The symbolism mattered more than the act itself. The sack represented separation, removal from society, from air, from order. The animals symbolized chaos. The message was clear. This crime broke the natural order, so the punishment would reflect that. Pena cruelty was not common, but it didn't need to be. Its existence alone reinforced a boundary. Some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. Together, these punishments formed a system, not random, not impulsive. Carefully chosen tools. Crucifixion discouraged rebellion. The Tarpeian rock punished betrayal. The arena enforced dominance. Symbolic punishments protected moral order. Rome understood psychology. Fear worked best when it was predictable, when people knew exactly what would happen. Over time, things began to change. As the empire evolved, so did its values. Public punishments became less common. Some were reformed, others disappeared. By the 4th century AD, many of these practices were abandoned. New beliefs reshaped Roman law. New ideas about justice took hold. But for centuries, these punishments defined Roman authority. They were not just about law. They were about memory, about control, about shaping how people thought. Rome didn't rely on constant violence. It relied on unforgettable examples. So when travelers walked that road in 71 BC, they weren't just seeing punishment. They were reading a message, one written without words. Defy Rome. And Rome will make sure the world remembers. Which of these punishments do you think would have shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, like and subscribe for more history that shaped the world.